Oh my god, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Day 9 Television. I'm killing the music because today we get to talk about Bisu vs. Jaedong. First of all, extra special, super duper crazy thanks to TeamLiquid.net for hosting all my links and everything and putting me on the calendar. I feel so important that I'm going to drink my tea. Alright, so we're looking at Bisu vs. Jaedong today. I'm really excited because this game is one-sided. And I love one-sided games because they're always the most educational games in the world. And before we go into the game, we need to talk about a few tidbits. First of all, look how awesome my beard is right now. Look at this. This is a week and 2 days of not shaving. It's outrageous. And I'm going as Wolverine for Halloween. You can clearly see that once I get this action going, it's going to be awesome. Also, big thanks to livestream.com because they verified me. Look, there's almost 200 people viewing. I'm so pumped. So awesome. I'm also recovering from my disease. Hooray. If you listen to any of my previous casts, I sound like Beetlejuice. Before we begin the cast, again, put all your text to white, and if anything goes wrong in the stream, message me in pink, and I'll definitely see. Now to use the unbelievable casting software of Procaster, Deflam. Check that out. We have Destination as the map. I really love Destination. And by the way, note that you can see my mouse cursor shooting around. Hooray! So that should help things be a little bit more clear as time's going on. I'm really trying to open up Destination, which I guess is here. There we go. Destination, in my opinion, is the most beautifully designed map of all time. I love Destination. It's so great, mainly because of the expanding patterns. If you take this expansion as your natural first, obviously, a lot of times you can come around the back, take these. If you come out, you can take this, and then up to the right. A lot of players take this left expansion, the right expansion. A lot of cool variety that can go on. Let's not spend too long talking about the map because we can... Whoa, that's so loud. We can spend time talking about the map right at the beginning of the game here. So, I really like Bisu's play a lot in general. He tends to avoid a lot of traditional things players do in Protoss vs. Zerg, which would be a lot of really big attacks in the mid-game. That's generally something that Bisu does not do. He does a lot of... taking his third early, being a little bit more aggressive early and that sort of thing. Oh, sorry, we're a little bit too zoomed in. Let me just zoom out so all of you can see the mini-map and whatnot. And of course, Bisu is very typical sort of early expander. Now, there's all this talk about how Protoss vs. Zerg is imbalanced. And I want to spend a little bit of time talking about that before I focus too much on the builds. Because this is going to have a pretty big effect later on. Oh, by the way, this is Jaedong versus Bisu from the All-Star game. As you will note by the fact that it says Pro League All-Star in the corner. And here's a very, very surprised Korean girl, as usual. I've never seen a Korean girl who's not honestly shocked that the camera panned in on her, but such is life. So, people have been complaining that Protoss vs. Zerg's imbalanced, and I think a lot of that reason is that if you look at traditional play, it ends up being something along the lines of the Protoss players. I'm just going to pop up here for a little bit. The Protoss players expand and then they go Corsairs and are not being aggressive at all early on. And that used to really throw Zergs off because they were preparing for aggression, but then all of a sudden nothing would come out. They would only... The Protosses would use Corsairs later on in the game and screw up all the economy of the Zerg and then come out with a much later push. And that was freaky for Zergs for a while, but now most Zergs tend to do no sort of defense early on, no aggression, none. They just prepare for this super out-of-control economy, which is way too hard for a lot of Protoss players to deal with. So if we return back to the stream here, this leads me to believe that in the metagame, which by the way, I'm just not going to use the word metagame. I hate the word metagame. Fuck the word metagame. In the general trends that we see, Zerg players are doing nothing overly aggressive early on and are powering way too hard. So in my opinion, we should start seeing a lot more cute techniques to abuse Zerg's weakness in that early mid-game stage. A great example of this is Movie against Jaedong on Heartbreak Ridge. Movie all of a sudden went Corsair straight into Dragoons with range. It was this outrageously weird strategy, but Jaedong was caught off guard because he hadn't gotten all his 5 hatcheries and all his economy going yet, and that totally screwed him up. So here Bisu, this sexy gentleman, and Jaedong, the equally sexy Zerg gentleman, Jaedong's going to be, or excuse me, Bisu's going to be taking advantage of that this game. So everything that Bisu's doing is very standard. There's a few things I want to note early on that happened. We saw an overpool from Jaedong, so of course he's going to be going Forge and then Cannon, but this second Cannon is also critical. On a map like maybe Eye of the Storm or Tau Cross, you can get away with building one cannon, then your Nexus, then a gateway to wall off, but the fact that there's this path around is just such a huge pain, that you really do need the second cannon up. So it's important to note that order. Always have these orders just down. You need to know these orders super, super, super well. Because all those little rearrangements are what are key. A lot of Protoss players overreact and always build two cannons then a gateway if they see some sort of early pooling. Don't do that. On Destination it's really necessary though because of all these wide open spaces. Now I'm going to say this right now. Watch how Bisu focuses on being aggressive before his Corsair pops out, or right when the Corsair pops out. It's not Corsair, long delay, then a Zealot Archon push. Or Corsair, long delay, then Reaver harass. Really immediate, fast attack. Jaedong, of course, is doing everything as standard as you'd imagine. He's just going for 3 bases. Really good response by him to just throw down an expansion here and not to overreact to that pylon that was screwing with him right there. So, just most normal thing in the world. Again, from a Zerg point of view, a lot of Zergs overreact when they see a pylon getting thrown down there. Just leave and go build somewhere else. Very, very easy to do. And if you're really having problems with that probe being really aggressive, send 2 drones to shoot a little bit, and then just send 1 to each expansion. So you can plant no matter where the probe is. I doubt any are going to be bringing 2 probes unless they're a little bit out of control. So, again, everything's totally standard, but we're going to see a few differences start to come up right here in Bisu's base. So, notice, again, timing of that, of the assimilator very early. Very well known for getting that super early assimilator, but we're going to see a second gateway come down here. And notice this constant Zealot production. Let's actually rewind just a little bit to see Jaedong's, or Bisu's front that we got a chance to look at. See, so far he's been producing Zealots constantly. Good to have that thing clogged. And by the way, look at this beautiful placement. Oh my god, I love this. Look, there's this little tiny crack for all of his units to get out of. This can easily be clogged with probes if Lings try to run in. Both the cannons cover each other, which is really, really important. This one covers this far edge. We have this cannon covering all the mineral patches. And notice how tightly packed this is. Best thing in the universe. And also, another good rule to remember, for walling off, forges go on bottom, gateways go on top. That's the tight wall. For Terran, it's the opposite. Barracks on bottom, supply depot on top. A lot of players just build buildings so they touch, but you really want tight walls there. Let's look at Jaedong. Everything as normal as we'll see a Zerg player do. But what's interesting is that we see how Jaedong is prepared for a whole bunch of stuff, but just is not prepared for what Bisu's doing. Look at that. Very early +1 attack upgrade. We only have 1 gateway right now. Look at this. Look at this. Where's the other gateway? We see this Citadel coming down. Just 1 gateway. Just 1. And Protoss players don't just get +1 attack upgrade because they think it's good. A good Protoss player will get the +1 attack upgrade because he's preparing for an early push. See, look, here's the second gateway coming down, and still no, non-stop Zealot production. So we're going to see the timing of this Corsair pop out, and then we're going to see Bisu be aggressive right afterwards. This is very typical aggression by Zergs to come around here and try to take out this assimilator. Nothing surprising here. But also notice that Bisu, this Zealot, lagged behind. He didn't bring this Zealot too early because he doesn't want to risk having a huge attack swing up to the side. And right now as Bisu, I would probably start being a little bit suspicious because I've just seen the second gateway finish. And this is generally typical of a Protoss player who's going for fast Templar, because then they get the 2DTs out and they start getting high Templar and they start doing cute stuff with that. But when you see that many Zealots, that's a little bit weird. And see, also note, look how aggressive Bisu's being. He's really planting himself on the other side of that double bridge. And I'm pretty sure +1's getting close to being finished. Now, let's look at this composition. We just saw this photon cannon here, very standard to hold off any sort of Mutalisk harass. We just saw these 2 gateways here, and we see up here, that just went off camera, we see the Templar archives. All of this has the exact same look to your everyday normal, I'm going to pop up and say this. This has the same look to your everyday normal Corsair into Dark Templar opening. Totally standard. But we see that +1 attack upgrade came a little earlier. We saw the Templar Archives was delayed because of Zealot leg speed, and we see a whole bunch more Zealots. And that's going to be the key to all of this. So, going right back into the game, look at these Zealots coming out. Jaedong, God, I need to stop saying the wrong player first. I always say the wrong player first. Gotta work on that just a little bit. But look at this. This is just great play by Bisu. Look at this amazing job right here. Because look at Jaedong's defense back here at the expansion. Look, this is an anti-Dark Templar defense. Look, no holes. I'm going to wall off this. Look at this sunken colony defending all the workers. Look at this spire placed right here. Dark Templars can't get through, or they'll get funneled through, but Zerg units can get out. Beautiful, amazing placement. You should copy this placement as Zerg, but you should also know that this is what kills Dark Templar, not what's going to prevent what Bisu's about to do. And see, look at this. Speed's about to finish. Let's keep an eye on this +1 upgrade, see if it pops out in time. All this has the standard look to play, but these Zealots with speed come out at a really unusual time. And the Zerg, again, totally preparing for an anti-Dark Templar play, but not for this anti-Zealot play. I'm still interested to see if this +1 attack upgrade pops out. I'm pretty sure it pops out in a little bit here, but look, totally unprepared for this. And generally, you'd want more sunken colonies here, and notice this timing by Jaedong. Look at that. The Lurker just now is getting started. Really good timing by Jaedong, but a little bit too late. This is exactly what Bisu's taking advantage of. Bisu is moving in at the time where Jaedong would be preparing for a little bit more delayed attack. Bisu's going for a super duper duper mad crazy early level attack. So we have these Zealots coming in. Look at this! Look at that! Look at that! Oh! Here's the big deal. This is like the biggest deal. All of you should be freaking out just as much as I am. Look at the +1 attack upgrades just now getting finished. Look at this. Oh, yeah. +1 attack upgrade. Attaboy, Bisu. Look at this. These Lurkers. No problem at all for Bisu to deal with. None whatsoever. Just not a big deal. So great. So great by Bisu. And look, this attack, again, is not some sort of all-in play. When we looked back at Bisu's base earlier on, we saw that he was doing the very standard Dark Templar Corsair play, but just that he'd thrown these Zealots with speed and the +1 upgrade early on to do this sort of early aggression. Again, taking advantage of the fact that Zergs tend to power way too long in this matchup. Just absolutely wonderful job by Bisu. Look, see, Jaedong is going to hold it off, but this is a scary position for Zerg to be in. We're just now entering the mid-game. And look at the minimap. Look at this. Look at this giant ball of empty space where Zerg would want to be advancing. This is right where Zerg wants to be. Now this is also really good by Jaedong. Anytime you are really hooked into a tight spot in the way that Jaedong is, Jaedong's sort of pushed back into a wall, just having a little bit of counter-aggression, really important. For Protoss players, if you're in a tight spot, have Dark Templar checking around for expansions. For Terrans, be scanning and sending little vultures out to do cute things for you. And notice again, all of Bisu's play is just very gentle afterwards. He didn't try to pound Jaedong apart with that early aggression. It was designed to give him a stronghold for this mid-game. That nice sort of off-balancing in the mid-game is what's going to really screw Jaedong up. See, this attack is delayed. Zerg wants to be doing this a lot earlier. We see a Dark Zealot down here, just doing a little bit of harassment. We see the usual Zealot Archon stuff here. And this Zealot Archon is just a good unit composition that can be very aggressive. Do not think of it as the Zealot Archon push that was really popular about 6 months ago, 5 months ago. This is just a really strong muscle army, especially if you're feeling at an advantage and you're getting close to observers. You can stay on a fairly low gateway count and be super, super aggressive, especially if you're in the lead with the plus attack upgrades. Look at this. Great, great job by Bisu. Bisu's only really been feeling a little uncomfortable for 1 minute when he was waiting for those cannons to finish. But of course, in that minute, there was never any risk of death. There was just a risk of being put behind a little bit. Which, of course, Bisu handles no problem at all. Look at this counterattack. Just totally kick-ass job. So, this is the sort of thing that we want to be looking at, that this attack's going on by Bisu, but this expansion is also going on. If you watch just a bazillion pro games in the way I do, you see that whenever a player moves out for an attack, even especially with these sorts of small ones, an expansion is right along the way as well. And the next phase in this sort of play is once you're feeling a little bit like you have to tone down the aggression on Bisu's half, that's when you start adding in more muscular units like Dragoons and the like. But I mean, really look at what Jaedong's doing. Jaedong's doing about the look of the normal Zerg player. He's taking this back expansion. We have a lot more Hydralisks coming in. The Lurkers were there to hold things off a little bit early on. But Jaedong can't quite get a foothold. He's just having a little bit of trouble remaining, permanently stable. However, it still has that same look, even though he's having a little bit of problems. See, only now, look at the middle of the map, only now is Jaedong starting to move forward across the mini-map, and right now we've hit the mid-game that we're so used to in Protoss vs. Zerg. We're used to that mid-game where Zerg has a bunch of Lurkers and Hydralisks, and the Protoss is trying to push out into the middle. But if you look at the game, you see that Bisu already has this expansion up, and only just now is day 9, Jesus. I'm definitely not Jaedong. Let me try that one again. This is where we see Jaedong finally starting to move out. I can't believe I just said my own name. That's like totally awesome. I gotta do that more often. I'm just gonna call one player the opponent and the other player day 9. Generally the winning player. Oh, it's the best. So, and this is another nice little pattern to be doing with your units. Notice how a lot of the units by Bisu are hanging out back here. You kind of want to be bouncing back and forth between here. See, they're the Dragoons. The Dragoons are the muscular unit. I call them that because Zealots and Archons are good at being very mobile and harassing a whole bunch and being really aggressive and in the Protoss's in the Zerg's face. But the Dragoons are the ones that are really hard to deal with once you get a sufficiently large army. And also notice how aggressively Bisu's expanding. This is what I love so much about Bisu's play, is that he just expands so much more than the typical Protoss. And this, okay, what is this? What is this attack going on? I mean, I would almost call this a desperation play. I mean, Jaedong is pretty clearly in an uncomfortable situation, not necessarily in a losing situation, and this sort of attack is just burning free units. But what's nice about this attack, from a commentary point of view, is this helps to highlight how strong this positioning and defensive structure of Bisu is. And look at this. Not anywhere near enough units for Jaedong. Normally we'd have way more units and overlords with speed there. They're just not there because everything got delayed by that early push by Bisu. Look at him. Bisu just does not give a fuck that he's that good. And Jaedong's freaking out a little bit. So, look at this very standard mid-game push. Very traditional sort of play. And again, the timing of it would indicate to me that Bisu was doing that as a response to this attack. Because look at Bisu, he's taking this right side of the map. He's not thinking to himself, alright, I'm going to expand twice and immediately attack. That doesn't really seem to make much sense to me. But right when Bisu holds off this attack, clear a whole bunch of damage being done here. And this is a pretty crushing defeat to lose that many Lurkers early on. Really good job by Bisu. Bisu clearly knows that he's in this ridiculous, advantageous position, and he's just going for it. And by the way, thank you so much, everyone. There's 430 viewers in here. That's the best. I'm so happy. Oh my god, this is just wonderful. I think I'm going to do another cast right after this one, just because I'm so pleased. I mean, just this push is just so well timed, and look how well it incorporates into everything that Bisu's doing, and all of it is the result of that early aggression. And good game. Now that was just solid play by Bisu, and I like that game so much as an example because what we see is that the game looks normal. Everything about it has that usual look. We have the 1 Stargate Corsair, and then we have the 2 gateways going into Templar. The Zerg's going 5 hatcheries and then going Hydralisk with the +1 attack upgrade. Very normal. But Bisu worked in that early Zealot push that got this huge advantage for him. Always be thinking of ways to put in those early attacks, especially when the Zergs power a lot. For instance, I had struggled in a game on Medusa when my opponent just added on a 2nd gateway right as he was making his Stargate and pushed out early with about 6 or 7 Zealots, and it was really hard to hold off. So people are giving a lot of requests, but instead what I'm going to do is be consistent, and I'm going to do another Bisu versus Jaedong game on Destination. Excuse me, a really good example of a different mid-game plan used by Bisu. So I'm going to stop the stream just for 1 minute, so that way I can start it back up again, and then we'll have 2 on-demand VODs for tomorrow. Alright, I will be back in exactly 1 minute.